Welcome back, one and all, to yet another episode of Kamen Saber, or these kind of reviews on episodes of Kamen Saber. And we are officially in the 30s, meaning we have about 20 episodes left, give or take. 19 now, if this has the standard 50 episode count. This is the middle of the year, so we have a few more months till September. So the series should be reaching endgame relatively soon. And yeah, that also means we're going to get a lot of big things happening here and there for the remainder of the season. But let's talk about this particular episode. We are on episode 31, Believing in Strength, Strength Believed In. So, again, this follows up from last week, in which May was turned into the Neko, or Cat Megiddo, and now Rentaro and Toma are out to, save May, because, she is the Kamen Rider girl and their friend, all that kind of stuff. But the episode immediately follows, Rentaro getting his ass kicked at the end of the last episode, and he's being looked after by Daisenji. It's a big touching moment because Rentaro's bemoaning his inaction and everything that's happened since, Calibur's defeat, as well as the guild's destruction, basically usurped by Master Logos and all that kind of stuff. After yelling a bit, he runs off because he is soul hurt, which, who's to blame him, as he has a very good reason for being hurt. And Toma goes out to fight the Neko Megiddo, which appears again. He finds May, and May asks where Yuri is because, Yuri is probably really needed right now. And, Yuri's still gone because he's still trying to find Tassel. He's not having a good luck with that search, by the way, either. So Toma is, very sad to tell her that Yuri's not there, and so she kind of loses a little bit more hope. The episode shows May getting tortured mentally a lot by the Neko Megiddo a bit, and by Zuos. Also a weird bit, Zuos backflips into all of his scenes. I'm just like, did they just tell you to act like a hyperactive monkey? I mean, you're supposed to be like a wolf, but you act like more like a hyperactive monkey because then you keep backflipping into scenes. So yeah. Interesting note, throughout all the fights the Cat Megiddo has, it flips back and forth between itself and May. And that is an interesting thing. At first, the shifts were seen to be almost involuntary for the Megiddo in question, but in this case, it seems like the cat is obviously intentionally doing it to torment its attackers, as well as to torment May to increase its ability to turn her into itself, as well as the reason it goes after humans in order to form its human shield. Well, it's to form a human shield to stop Toma and Rentaro from killing it. So I think this is probably one of the more intelligent Megiddo we've had, outside of Disaster. And Charybdis is gaining intelligence, so maybe Charybdis will be smarter now too. Who knows? Anyway, yeah. So they are fighting again, and Rentaro shows up, and Rentaro helps Toma get away because Toma's getting his ass kicked with the 2-on-1, even with the Elemental Dragon's power. And, they have a bit of a talk, and then they have a bit of a honestly pretty cool Garo-esque duel. For those of you who haven't seen Garo, it's kind of another Toku show where the gimmick is that they can't really stay transformed for long, so a lot of the fights are out of suit. That's one of the main gimmicks of the show. There are a lot more, some more horror-themed, more adult shows. So I'm pretty sure a lot of you probably have heard about it, considering it runs from the same company. So I'm pretty sure a lot of you might have heard about its existence. I recommend watching a few seasons, though. Some of them are actually pretty good. Anyway, this is a Garo-esque fight because they fight outside of suit. Although it does that funny thing that the show keeps doing with the swords, in the fact that, Toma and Rentaro and Kento's blades are the same mold, so they have the same kind of shape. They're supposed to be double-sided blades. But in the midst of the fight, when Rentaro is guarding, he holds the sword, the blade part, with his hand in a way that should cut into his hand because Toma is hitting him, cutting at him with his sword. And this isn't a case where there's a sharp end because both sides are supposed to be a sharp end. So he should be getting his hand cut from guarding. And this is just one of those weird things I notice as a bit of a sword nerd because I like swords. Can you blame me? They're pretty cool looking. Anyway, Rintaro's basically been bemoaning the fact that he can't save May by himself because he can't get his sword to glow, with the special power. And in the midst with his fight with Toma, they do that whole swordsman sensing the spirit of the other person thing with their swords, and honestly pretty cool and emotional bit. And like Toma's sword starts glowing, and he hits Rentaro's sword, and his sword starts to glow a little bit until it fully glows. And it kind of reminds me of the sword blackening. Minor spoilers for the ending arc of Demon Slayer, of the sword darkening thing from that final arc, where it's like, when someone gets their sword to blacken, and they can hit someone else's sword with their sword, and it'll blacken as well. No, they can make someone else's sword blacken, someone's Nichiren blade blacken like theirs is. And it's kind of a tactic that they use in that final battle against Muzan. Again, I said spoilers for the final arc and Demon Slayer. Obviously, the final battle against Muzan. I made it generic enough so that you could that you've only been spoiled on the whole black sword thing. Although I think it might come up earlier in the series, I don't remember right now. I have to reread Demon Slayer for other reasons. Anyway, it kind of reminds me of that, and I wonder if it would work. I mean, it was kind of obvious that Rentaro's blade would start to get the glow, considering it's made of the same mold as Toma's and Kento's. Although it does make me wonder if Kento could get his sword to glow, and maybe Calibur's sword could also have this weird glowy thing. I know Calibur and Yuri have a lot of nebulous powers because sort of light and darkness, but it would be kind of funny if they also got this, if Calibur also could do the whole splitting people from Megiddo thing. Anyway, they go off for the fourth round of these fights, fourth or fifth. I think around 5 rounds have happened so far. Anyway, they go off for the fight, for like the 5th or 4th round against the Cat Megiddo and Zuos, and it obviously turns out to be a much better round this time for them. It starts off with mainly Zuos being in the front, and then the Cat Megiddo does a lot of fucked up things where it's like switches between herself and May. And there's one point where they separate the Cat Megiddo from May, and it just jumps back on her to reabsorb her. And there's a really kind of cool / weird moment where, because their swords are glowing, they can see May inside the Megiddo, and they talk to May and basically give her the strength of will and resolve to fight against the Cat Megiddo in order to save herself, or at least hold it still so they can deliver a blow to save her and kill it. And it was kind of emotional, but it kind of turned into a joke, because it kind of launched her into the air, and then she kind of lands in a weird way to, make a bit of a weird joke, because May still has to have her jokes at least once an episode, and she only had her joke at the beginning of the episode last week, and now at the end of this week's episode. And yeah, they save May, no duh, and well, I don't think she's gonna end up like Izu, because she's not a robot, and they can't revive her with science magic or data. So they save May and kill the Cat Megiddo, and then do a double rider kick on Zuos, which is really cool because double rider kicks are always really cool to see. And Zuos is on fire. Like, for the remainder of the episode, he's on fucking fire, saying the fight's not over yet, before Storios comes up and retrieves him. I only mentioned the A plot. I didn't mention any of the B plot this week because I want to bulk it onto one thing. But yeah, that's the A plot. And Toma and Rentaro and May have a bit of a cute moment with the Trinity. Again, I like these three. They have a really fun dynamic. Even Rentaro addresses it, and how she says how she's their son earlier in the episode. Not sun, S-O-N, sun as in S-U-N, the star in the sky that gives our planet life. She is their son. And it's a kind of cute moment, and further fuels the shipping, and I'm always down for that, because I kind of ship these two, because they have a cute dynamic, especially after last week's episode with the eclair, in that honestly wholesome moment. And it's a little bit of happiness before what looks like to be next week's a lot of bad shit going down, from the looks of it from the episode previews. And if you haven't seen episode previews, looks like a lot of bad shit's about to go down. And let's talk about that B plot. Anyway, the B plot. The B plot is focused on Master Logos and Storios a bit. The pair appear to be, working together or at least trying to use the other for their own gain. With Master Logos, obviously, being evil and shit. And then there's a quick moment where he summons Reika and Ryuga, however you pronounce his name, to his, like, to basically get orders, as they're worried about, getting into northern base. He basically tells them it's a non-issue because basically he has Storios working on it in a way, or he has some back door to the place, which makes sense. But Ryoga, however you pronounce his name, basically tells Reika that she doesn't have Master Logos' complete trust anymore. I guess because of recent failings, even though she really didn't lose a fight at all throughout the entirety since her debut. But yeah, she looks pretty sad. I'm just like, please don't give her a redemption series. We don't need that right now. We have enough characters. We don't need a redemption for, unless, yes, I like Sabala's suit. That doesn't mean he needs to give her a redemption. Especially considering the fact that the swords are interchangeable. You can honestly just kill her and give the sword to May or something. I mean, I wouldn't be against it, but I wouldn't be down for it if they did do that. Anyway, outside of that, at the end of the fight with the cat Megiddo, I cannot talk sometimes. At the end of the fight with the cat Megiddo, May drops the key that Sophia gave her way back when, and Storios picks it up, and I think that might lead into next week's episode. In a way, we don't know yet. But yeah, Sophia was pretty eager to get that key back from May. So whatever that key unlocks is super duper important and might actually be the thing that they were kind of torturing her for to get their hands on. That Book of Human Sadness or something, or whatever it is. So yeah, they might have what they need. Obviously, Storios collects Zuos because he's going to have a bigger role next week. He's basically doing what Legiel did, but for Rentaro instead of for Toma. It hasn't even been that long since Legiel died. They're really killing off the generals quickly this year. Yeah, I mean, shit. How long did we have Generals for in 01? I think generals are pretty irrelevant right now. Anyway, so he has the key, and Master Logos does some weird shit. Like there's some kind of weird slime in his mouth, so he might not be entirely human or something. I don't know what that's supposed to mean, but it looks kind of creepy, and I think that's the intended effect. And Yuri gets told by Tassel's familiar or something. I don't know what it is. It's a little glowing bird thing, and learns that Yuri has effectively been attacked by Master Logos, and he's currently dissipated, but when he gets his power back, he'll be back. So he could only show up in Toma's dream world thing since Toma was able to connect to it after saving or helping the little kid and Primitive Dragon. So he doesn't have physical form right now from the sounds of it, but he'll be back when he gets his powers back, which is pretty nebulous. And then him and Yuri can basically explain what the fuck. Because I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of exposition needed when Tassel comes back. But either way, that's the B plot. Again, it wasn't the main focus. It was just side stuff, and might lead into next week's episode, which is looking intense. So let's talk about this episode overall. So if I had to rate this episode, I would honestly say with last week's episode also, because this is a two-parter, this is probably one of my favorite two sets of episodes in the series so far. Like, the series has had some ups and downs in terms of episode quality, but I always gotta say, this one's on the very high end of its quality in terms of its character writing and action, all that kind of stuff. Not only did we get a lot of good action, we got a lot of good moments between Rentaro and Toma. We explored character relationships. We had the baggage of previous episodes actually explored. We've had the characters express their motivations. Well, not express them, but rely on their motivations and gain new ones and force their bonds. Rentaro speaks more casually with Toma, which is really cool to see. Maybe he'll eventually do it with May. Again, it's just cool to see these characters grow closer as friends and all that kind of stuff, because I do like these characters. It isn't a Ghost case where I like some, but I don't like most, or Deno's case, which I'll talk about that when I get to Deno, which should be sometime this year or early next year when I talk about Deno. But I ultimately enjoy the characters, even if the story is lacking at various points in said story. And, well, this is a key point about why I like these characters. They can be such fun, especially Rentaro, who's probably my favorite character in Saber right now. He was in the early bit of the series, but he kind of dipped because he didn't do much during that whole uh, break after the Caliber defeat, and now he's back to being a really good boy, one of the best boys, and I really like him and his actor. And his actor is really good at pulling up the emotional shit, and I kind of love that. Kamen Rider has surprisingly almost always has good acting quality. Like maybe a few of the guest actors aren't that great, but in most cases the main actors are all are pretty good actors. Yeah, depend. Super Sentai, flip of a coin. Uh, anyway, in this case, I really like the actor for Rentaro, Doma's actor too, but mostly Rentaro's. Uh, Again, it was a really cute moment. Again, that whole again, for lack of a better term, unmorphed fight scene, which was really cool. Although, again, the whole sword cut hand thing I mentioned earlier, that was a really cool moment, and I always am happy to see that, especially because their weapons are supposed to be super important. So I'd like to see them fight with them outside of suit sometimes, at least in this show's case. Rentaro finally getting his glow sword, making me wonder about Kento being able to do it. Oh, Kento does show up in this episode, noting that May is still alive and talking about a future he didn't foresee. So again, this might be the loop to break his time loop, or he just doesn't see all the possibilities he can see. So yeah, not a lot outside of that, but again, episode. Really liked this episode. Looking forward to next week's episode to finish off what should hopefully be a good 3-parter, considering the fact that obviously the events this week are leading to next week. But this isn't a case like with the. It's kind of a case like with the Legio's downfall episode, which was a while ago. I think about it. Although in this case, it's Studios' downfall episodes. It's just happy to see. And I'll talk about Zeus' upgraded form next week, although we did get the picture leaks for it. I'm not going to talk about it here. I'm going to talk about it next week when it's relevant. As well as, Blade's final form. Talking about it next week when it's more relevant, although it is in the episode previews. So yeah, next week's episode looks to be really interesting. Potentially great. Hopefully it will be great, because it's an all-out attack type scenario. And yeah, this week's episode was a cool moment and good character stuff. So yeah, I don't really know how to end these 100% well, and it's been 30 episodes. Again, yeah. See you next week.